I married a Malayali man. He speaks Malayalam so fluidly and his family speaks so fluidly, and it's a detriment to me because I don't have any conversation with his family because I can't keep up, and beyond like certain phrases that I just stay quiet, and I find it's a detriment to me. My native language is Malayalam, and I know it about 55%, like halfway. So what happened is my family came here in 1990. We came here actually for a wedding. We came from the Middle East. We came from Kuwait. We were here for 2 months, but then 3 days before we were supposed to go back, the war broke out. So we were kind of stuck here because no planes were going to that area. So my mom liked being around her family, so she asked, can we just stay back and be close to everybody? And my dad agreed, so we stayed back. Growing up, what happened was when we came here from another country, though we spoke Malayalam when we were younger, we wanted to assimilate as fast as possible. And we started speaking English because it was easier, and, we were already kind of very awkward. I was 3 at the time, but my siblings were older and it was hard for them at school. So growing up, like my parents would speak Malayalam, but we would always respond back in English. Time I was okay. I was the youngest and I grew up speaking English the most. I grew up in a very predominantly white neighborhood. In my class, I was the only Indian girl. In my school, I was maybe one of 3. I didn't see it as a problem because for me, it was like, well, I don't want to get made fun of. I already have a hard time bringing friends home and they make comments about the smells and they make comments about our culture. So it was hard enough that way. So I found it easier just to not speak Malayalam at all and then just focus on being part of the American culture more versus the Indian culture. I had 2 separate friend groups. I grew up as a Malayali Christian, so I had my Malayali Christian friends and I had my school friends, and I kept them separate. There were things that my Indian friends knew, like there's no such thing as a curfew for Indian girls because Indian girls just never left the house. I still remember my friends wanting to hang out and it was like 8:30 at night and my friends are like, let's go out, like we're all 18, and like I just had one look at my dad and I just went right upstairs. Like I knew there was no point like asking such questions. I don't know if you guys can see, I have my my Indian culture, like where I was part of classical dance, I was part of church activities, I was part of the community programs. I don't even think anyone in my school knew I was doing any of those things. Like I kept the life very, very separate growing up. It definitely annoyed my parents because I would not let my mom cook, or I would not be like, my friends are coming over, like don't cook anything. Just looking back, we don't think like how much work our parents did. Like mom had a full-time job and she came home after that and used to cook and clean full fresh meals, but even as children you were like, no, I want pizza. So now is when you appreciate like all the things that your parents did for you. I married a Malayali man. He speaks Malayalam so fluidly and his family speaks so fluidly, and it's a detriment to me because I don't have any conversation with his family because I can't keep up, and beyond like certain phrases that I just stay quiet, and I find it's a detriment to me. I can't hear their stories. If I want to learn something, I have to use him as a buffer to speak to them and then translate. I'm working now as an adult harder to learn my language. Because now I live in India, I live in Mumbai, that incentive is there for my children to be even more into the Indian culture than I was. Now growing up, because there are certain aspects that I missed out on, I'm even more determined to make sure my kids don't have that issue growing up. If you don't sustain that memory to the next generation, you start to end a culture. Like I've been here because of COVID, but since I've come here, I make my parents sing Malayalam songs. I make myself read the English version. I'm forced to read the Malayalam and try to pronounce it correctly. I make my husband write messages to me in Malayalam, which is actually really romantic. So ladies, if husbands, all spouses, if you want to be very romantic, write in your native language. It's super romantic. Because I'm in India, and I've noticed for children here, they get together and they speak in English, but in India, you speak in your native language, whether it's Hindi or Malayalam. So I'm in areas where they're speaking in Malayalam more. I'm picking it up faster. I definitely understand way more than when I first moved to India. My husband used to always make fun of me when I came to India. I think the first time I came, what was it? I was like, do you guys get batteries there? I had the most ignorant questions about India at that time. That's a lot of people's point of view, is they're very ignorant about what India has to offer. And now, because I live there, I'm seeing that with a lot of Indian American kids, where they're a little ignorant about what happens in India, how things are functioning, how the younger generation is being brought up. I really, encourage everyone to go, and obviously when it's safe, to go and visit and see India for themselves and discover it for themselves, because that is what really helped change my mind. It's really amazing if you give it a chance. My first few years in India was very, very hard for me, because I think if you come to Kerala, it's not much of a shock because I've been there so many times. But Mumbai was a city that I really didn't go to, and it was very hard for me to acclimate to what was going around me. I was triggered by so many things, the noise, the pollution. It made me miss US a lot. And because I didn't have anyone my family to go to on the weekends, and because my husband travels a lot, I was scared to do anything because didn't know where to go. After I think 1.5 years or 2 years or so, I finally was no, I can't do this to myself. I started doing small things take the subway, the metro, that's what they call there, making more friends there. You hear that thing well, if you don't know, learn English. But I feel that way. In India, they were much more understanding to my situation, and I never felt I was hardened by that way, but I felt they were much more understanding that I was not from the culture. But because the community support is there, I feel you have that inclination to learn that culture faster. Now India is getting too much influence from America, and I've been put in situations where they don't want to speak Hindi, they only want to speak English because Hindi is beneath them. That is becoming a trend I've seen. They would rather promote international bags and international clothing than clothing made in India from Indian designers and stuff like that. They're trying so hard, take influences from other places, that they're forgetting what Indian culture is all about. They're forgetting that it's a country that's been there for 3,000 years with, stories and culture and religion. There are young designers in India that are doing amazing things, and I try to promote it as much as I can, but there's a high society thing about it. People would rather travel abroad than travel within India. I feel I meet two different types of young people in India, where one is no, we just can't wait to get out, and a lot of people are no, this is my country, I want to give back. Also it depends on your background. If you're from a background where your parents worked hard to get you a good education and things like that, you often will leave to pursue that. Like I said, there's always a lot for India to offer, and I think it's just a matter of, you have to see things from a different perspective. I have North Indian friends who are very much they speak Hindi at home, immersed in their culture, because when they go to India, they're not just visiting family, they're doing other things as well. Also, I have Malayali friends who all speak Malayalam. I really do think the emergence is important. I really want to say yes. And I think even the children in the Gulf, for the most part, that I know many of them, from my husband's side, they all know their language, they all know the culture, because they used to go back to Kerala more often than people from the States. I think it also just opens up your perspective of being a little bit kinder. It's not uncommon to use words oh, he's a fob. Have you seen them? They've been so fobby. You use words like that, and it comes from a derogatory place. It's not coming from a good place. Being in India allowed me to do is look from their perspective, and now I look back at how I used to be growing up and making comments like that. I feel so bad. I feel I've learned and grown up from that. Not to look at people that way, but look at us. We're all people just trying to better ourselves in this life that we've been given.